can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat.
ESBR Boxing, we are back, myself and Paul Kelly. That means one thing and one thing only. We're here in preview mode. We're here previewing a fight taking place in the flyweight division from the glamorous Resorts World Arena in Birmingham. Before we get into that, Paul, I'd just like to say to everyone, like and subscribe to the channel. Check out, obviously our big fight breakdowns, previews, reviews, all that good stuff. All your boxing needs up and under one roof. So please like, subscribe, and check that out. But Paul, as mentioned, we are here flyweight, interim world flyweight action, WBC interim world flyweight action. Galal Yafai against the Mexican Francisco Rodriguez Jr. Quite an intriguing fight, this, Paul. Those the first thing, we don't like to mess around too much. We're going to sort of unpick it a little bit further, maybe look at the division wider. But first and foremost, what I want to ask you really is, for your prediction straight up, Paul, your thoughts on the fight. Is it a fight you're excited about? And then please your prediction with method. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for that eloquent breakdown, mate. Good to be doing the previews with you as always. Yeah, I think this is actually an intriguing fight on paper. I mean, the thighs look nothing short of amazing since turning pro. Turning pro late, I suppose. You look at ultimately making Sonny Edwards quit on the stool, really, and not want to be there. And subsequently, Sonny Edwards has retired after that fight. That was his retirement fight. You look at Rodriguez as well, and he's been in where there was some of the best, beaten some of the best. Obviously, had his 6 losses as well, but he's a big puncher himself. 27 victories and his 39 wins down in those divisions. So clearly a big puncher considering he's only 112 pounds in weight or whatever it is, something like that. So yeah, an intriguing fight, mate. I think it's a good test for Galal Yafai. I think this is kind of like almost like the last acid test before you have to be putting him into legitimate world title fights. I believe he gets the job done here. I think, despite not being too old, like he's only 32, but Rodriguez has had a long career, in my opinion. He's had 45, 46 fights, whatever it is. Been in there with Nakatani, Ioka, Nietes, even Chocolatito years and years ago, which I think was his first defeat. But like, good fighter, big puncher. But I think Galal Yafai is the real deal. The way he dismantled Sonny Edwards last time out, I thought he was superb. And I think, yeah, I think Galal Yafai will get the job done here. Probably actually leaning towards points for this one, despite him having 7 stoppages in his 9 wins. But I'm going to go you 5 points, but mark it on timestamp this, because I think it wouldn't be a surprise if your 5 was to get him out of there in the second half.
Yeah, that's fantastic sort of summary, breakdown and prediction. I'm struggling to call this one, to be perfectly honest with you. Obviously, you mentioned there that the vast sort of difference in experience. With Francisco Rodriguez having, 46 fights, like you say, he's lost, but he's only been stopped once. And like you say, shared the ring with Nakatani, shared the ring with Ioka, going 12 rounds in that fight as well. So for me, I agree with you. I kind of think, Claudio Fire will win this. I'm not massively confident, though, to be perfectly honest with you either. I see it as quite a close fight. Like you say, it's an acid test really before you can leap up, and you're looking at going, it's some acid test for a guy who's currently in his 10th pro fight, So I think, again, the fact that that Francisco's gone points with some of those big names as well, I would also think I think this is going to be Yafai sort of careful performance, to be honest with you. It's like a results orientated performance. Just get the win kind of at all costs. And I think it's going to be points as well. So we are aligned and we are in agreement on a Galal Yafai. I'm probably a little bit less confident than you are, but we are both in agreement with our outcome there. But let's just have a little look, I suppose, at the division. Some of the names are kicking around there as well. Galal Yafai, where he's to sort of fight these guys. Obviously, there's people around the sort of ranked up, and they've got obviously Kenshiro Tajara, Yabuki, Anthony Olascuaga. How you sort of say that now? They're well obviously up there in the division as well. Like you said, he wins this fight, this acid test. You're looking at maybe going up those sort of names as well. So how does he fare against them, Paul? Those 3 names there, first and foremost. Does he win those fights? Does he lose those fights? Are those fights close? Or does he come through those fights undefeated and still?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of them where like they're quite strong champions. I mean, in my opinion, the strongest champion at flyweight is Tajar at the minute. And isn't he the full WBC champion? So of which it looks like if Galal Yafai wins this, obviously as the WBC interim already has that belt, then that would be the likely fight given he's the interim champion. I think that's the hardest of them all. I think if you beat Tajara, you beat them, you beat both Yabuki and Kuagwa as well. Yeah, it's difficult though, isn't it? Because there's part of you that thinks when you've only, yes, you have the amateur experience, you win the medal, gold medal, blah blah blah, and you clearly are elite. But like, even after this, he'll still have only had 10 pro fights. Um, you just think, has he had that real bona fide acid test where he gets put on him and we learn a bit more about Galal Yafai? That could be this weekend at the Resorts World. As you say, Francisco Rodriguez could bring that out of Yafai. But I want to know what he's like when he really, he's up against it, almost the underdog. And he would definitely, well, probably would be the underdog against Tajara, potentially, and maybe even the other two. But yeah, I would say right now, I still think Tajara is the real deal. I think he probably beats Yafai. But I would say, part of me does think Yafai would beat the other two champions that you've named there, mate. I'll say that with a whole lot of confidence. I think we'll know more after this weekend. If he comes through the Rodriguez test with flying colours, mate, I'm telling everyone Yafai is the best flyweight in the world and that he beats them all with one hand tied behind his back. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it very much depends on this weekend. But I haven't beaten Ibuki and Velasquez, but perhaps Tajara right now, I maybe still give him the edge.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with what you're saying. I think you look at someone like Velasquez, you look at him, he had a similar number of fights, similar kind of activity than Galal Yafai. So in a way, it's kind of both of them, like still sharp and still kind of bollocks that people like to say. But it's that thing where they're similar kind of thing. They might meet at a similar sort of time and sort of harden each other in that respect. So I think I would also have, Ibuki's obviously tasted defeat on a number of occasions as well. I'd actually have probably Galal Yafai to beat him as well. But I totally agree with you with Kenshiro sort of Taraji. I think the experience he's got as well. Like you say, you talk about that experience. You also talk about the last time out, good victory last time out. Knockout 12th round against Kiwi's ranked high up in that division as well. So really, you got to look at him and go probably. Don't get me wrong. I could see that. I could see a way where Galal Yafai would win that fight, but I couldn't have him going into that fight as favourite. To be perfectly honest with you, just you look at like the difference, like you say, the difference in sort of experience people have beaten, and I say really you have to probably start him as an underdog in that one. But I suppose that really brings us to the question of sort of flyweight and where you'd rank your fight really at flyweight. Is it a case for you then really of we'll know more? I mean, let's give it to you. Give me your ranking now and then post the fight. If he wins this fight quite dominantly, where are you going to have him? It'd be good to get that kind of perception of how sort of valuable you find this fight in ranking.
Yeah, I think actually a lot does depend on this weekend. I think if you're right now, I mean, you have to have the three champions above him, don't you? You have to have all the champions. So maybe the highest you could put him would be four. And I probably would put him four right now just because of I said he doesn't have a belt, the others do. Yes, I might think he would beat some of the champions, but I'm not going to put him above the champions right just yet. Um, win Saturday against Rodriguez. Do you still have him at four because he's not technically a world champion? Or do you maybe bump him up to two or three? Yeah, because I'm confident he beats Ibuki, and I'm actually quite confident he beats Olascuagua as well. So I probably have him at number two after this. But then is that stupid and going against my point that I made 20 seconds ago that can't have him above any of the champions because he doesn't have a belt? Yeah. So I'm just contradicting myself massively. But I think you know what I mean. I think yeah, we learn a lot more here. And I mean, belts aside, put it this way: if no belt existed, where would I have him in the division? I'd probably have him at two or three.
Yeah, I'd actually have to go along with that. I think, I was making that kind of Christian Bale, like, ooh, face, like, when you were saying too. But I think actually you look at it, if he wins this fight, for me, this fight's actually harder than some of the champions in that division. In a way, I think so. For me, I would have him probably at two if he wins this fight as well. At the moment, you probably have to have him sort of like you say, maybe down, maybe three, four, somewhere like that. I don't think you can really make a case above the champion. You can say, yeah, well, he might beat Olasquaga, fair enough. I'll move him up there, but I think it's hard to kind of say look, without fighting those sort of names, only having 9 pro fights, I'm going to put him in at sort of two. So for me, after this fight, maybe two, but now maybe sort of three, four, depending on personal preference. But guys, that is all we've got time for this on this preview show. Like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments whether you agree with us or disagree with us, really on the predictions, also the kind of landscape of the division as well, and how you sort of rate Galal Yafai, even his progress to date, and even where you'd rate him if he has a convincing victory against Francisco Rodriguez Jr. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me, guys. As always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back with more previews soon.
Pleasure as always, mate. Cheers.